How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Riley's Red Zone, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at all of the Week 4 NFL matchups. We're continuing the weekly pick series. To recap, last week we did go 9-7, that is the worst yet this year. There were I flipped a lot of picks kind of last second, and those didn't work out, but still a positive record overall. So then on the season we're 30-18, which I will take so far. And then in upset picks, that also took a dip last week. Just picked the wrong upsets, but so far I've hit 7 of 13 times I pick an upset. It has happened, so a little over half there. So with that being said, let's start by talking about this week's slate. We have a lot of games here. A lot of events happened last week that are going to help us talk about who might win this week. Starting with the Lions and the Packers. Two teams that are kind of in a similar boat. I feel like I've had some good games, not undefeated, but in that middle tier right now where they both are definitely fighting for the division and the playoffs. The Lions, of course, getting that nice win last week against the Falcons, as well as, the Chiefs win previously. Offensively, I think they're looking good. They have Jared Goff rolling at a nice level. Sam Laporta is putting up some great numbers at tight end. And, of course, on the defensive side, when you have the likes of Hayden Hutchinson, that's always going to be a potential threat to your opposition. For the Packers, I think that getting some health back here might be key. They pull off a late comeback last week against the Saints. And I've been diving into Jordan Love's film this week. Maybe potential spoiler, but I was considering making a video. And, I don't know if I'm going to get there quite yet because I think he's still improving. But what I've noticed with him is Jordan Love is solid. He is missing a bit of the accuracy. He's missed a lot of that. There's been a lot of open, deep plays. But I'll tell you this. He is someone that has the confidence and has all the tools to build something with if he just gets it a little bit closer, because he is making good decisions and progressing through reads really well as he has really good pocket presence. He can move around and step up. So he has all the basic things you need. If he just touches a few more like those deep balls, we're talking about a really, really good quarterback here. As well as, it says Christian Watson might make his debut this week. There's a lot of injuries going around the Packers, and I think they're starting to come back to health. And with that, I think that will be key in this game. And for that reason, I'm going to take the Packers as an underdog. They are mostly 1.5 point underdogs, maybe 1 point underdogs, depending on where it is. And also, once again, to reiterate, if you haven't seen previous videos, I do put the spreads to get an idea of who the favorite in the matchup is, but I only pick straight up who's going to win the game. Falcons, Jaguars is our next one. We got that early matchup overseas. Maybe you're watching the Toy Story version on Sunday or just the regular broadcast, but it's going to be an interesting one. I'd say this is one of the most difficult games for me to predict because the Falcons have been somewhat surprisingly decent to me. I still don't know if Desmond Ridder is the answer, but I think that they've been impressive at times this year. Love that they're working Bijan in there because he's an absolute stud. The Jaguars just kind of been treading along. Of course, they get this bad loss this last week against the Texans, really out of nowhere. It was kind of disappointing. In the week before that, they had, the Chiefs lost, and it's so kind of going through a disappointing spell here. Still 3-point favorites, though, and I feel like the overseas, whenever Jaguars play in Europe, they always seem to do well. So I'm going to put my trust in that, but this is the type of game that Atlanta easily could win. I mean, just historically, it feels like the last few weeks, when they're a few-point underdogs or kind of these close spreads, they always seem to maybe have a chance. So this could be sneaky. I'm going to go with the Jaguars, but this one is tough for sure. I'm going to take Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley connecting over, across the pond. Now, Dolphins-Bills. This one, I'll tell you this. The Dolphins, holy cow, they look amazing. I might have a video about one of their players coming up soon here. They are looking electric. But this is one of those things where I was going to take the Bills in kind of an upset, and I look at the spreads. Bills are 3-point favorites. I got to say I'm surprised. I'm going that direction, but I am a little surprised. I would have thought, if anything, it would have been 1 or 2. I guess it's home field advantage. The Bills have still looked pretty good. Overall, I think just the home field advantage here is going to be key, and I think it has played a factor in this series, but it's been pretty split. historically. And so the Dolphins look so good. This is just a pure feeling one that at home maybe the streak ends, but I got to give it to the Dolphins that they look phenomenal on offense right now. They can light the scoreboard up. Their defense is solid. The Bills here, I just have a feeling this week could maybe get it done, connecting on offense. Even James Cook is up there and leading for running because he's, getting it done there. Real close game. That one's going to be a great game to watch. Might be, the best matchup that we see this week. This next game might be the best matchup, but for different reasons. That it's kind of the worst matchup. We have two teams that have yet, to really put anything out there. So they both have something, I guess, to fight for, unless they're trying to tank. But it doesn't really matter for I think they're both going to try to get a win because they have both started real slow. Broncos, of course, get the doors blown off last week. I mean, absolutely destroyed, 70-20. Can't do much worse than that. I guess they put up 20 points, which is something the Bears didn't do. The Broncos defensively just looked, once again, I was watching some Dolphins film of that game, really looking for the Dolphins, but it just was wide open lanes everywhere. They could not stop anything. And which is surprising because I think at times the Broncos defense has been strong and it's been their offense holding them back. This last week it was a bit of both, but allowing 70 points is really hard to win. Because scoring 70 points is really hard to do. Then the Bears are just in this bottom spot that I picked them up first. I think it was a couple weeks ago against the Bucs when I really said this is the turning point because they look bad against the Bears and against the Packers. And this offense is not working at all. I don't know what they do. Like, Fields obviously looks like a broken project right now. Is he recoverable? I don't know, but I think they just need to use him in a different way maybe. I think that they just need to take more advantage of his speed and his scrambles and his running ability because otherwise it's not working. So two teams that this could go either way because they both just have looked so off. I'm going to go with the Broncos just because I think more veteran coaching, safer pick, but this could go either way, 100%. This next one, I'm going to do it again. It's been interesting. I've picked against the Browns a lot, even though I really, at the beginning of the year, had them doing very well. And I think they still could be. It's just all dependent on that offense. And, of course, losing Nick Chubb a couple weeks ago and then Deshaun Watson still not being what he was in Houston is really hurting this team's ceiling. They are still getting it done because they have one of the best defenses in the entire league. And I do believe that will get them a large way there. They obviously beat the Titans last week in, impressive fashion. But this week, I like the Ravens. Although they didn't get the win last week against the Colts, it was close. I think that they just keep going, and they're getting more chemistry as a group, getting more familiar. Defensively, they got Kyle Hamilton. I think his 3 sacks were in the first half last week, I believe I saw. But either way, he put up 3 sacks at safety. They have a lot of dogs out there, and they have I think they're going to go to the dog pound and go get that win here. Even though the Browns are favorites, I just think that the Ravens have a good enough defense to kind of prevent them from winning, prevent the Browns from winning. So I'm going to go with the Ravens in an underdog. It's my second underdog pick of the week. Bengals, Titans, two teams that just offensively have some question marks. Titans, pulled out a tough win, or they are real close in losses. Not last week, but they have Derrick Henry still. The Bengals pull off the win against the Rams on Monday night, but still just not quite what we're used to seeing from them. And I understand Joe Burrow is still getting back from that injury, but still a little bit of concern that we haven't seen it to that ceiling that we have before seen them with. So I do think 2.5 is interesting here. I do think this game could come down to a field goal. I think it's either going to be the Bengals get back to form, and if so, they're going to, I think, win this game by a large margin, or the Titans are going to play this real close and might even pull it off by a field goal. So I'm going to take the Bengals just as a safer. I think they might, if both teams are kind of sluggish, I still think the Bengals offense sluggish is a little bit better than the Titans offense sluggish, but whichever one gets it going is going to be the one that gets the win. Rams, Colts. Was shocked to see the Colts favored in this one. So that's, for me, going to be a clear upset pick. Still unsure of Anthony Richardson's health. If Richardson's healthy, that obviously makes it more enticing to pick the Colts. But right now, although the Colts did pull off that win, I think the Rams still have some potential here. They at least were able to keep it somewhat close against the Bengals. Obviously, a little disappointing outcome for them, but I still think at their ceiling, they've pulled off some tough wins against the Seahawks, and they barely lose to the Niners. They kept it relatively close compared to other teams that have played the Niners. I think that the Rams can deliver, and Sean McVay is not letting this team fall down like they did last year. If they have health, they're gonna deliver. So I'm gonna go with the Rams here in this matchup. The Colts, though, still have a bright future with Richardson, but this week I'm going with the Rams. Saints, Bucs. Bucs fall back down to earth after, having that undefeated start. They lose to the Eagles big time. It was bound to happen, in my opinion. I think they're kind of coming back to reality. Baker has enough confidence to get this team some wins and some upset wins I do think will happen this year. But on a consistent basis, I'm thinking that the Saints here are a little bit safer, even if Derek Carr is unhealthy and unable to go. That could be a huge impact, and I will say that is one kind of downside of me doing these videos earlier in the week. But to get it out before the Thursday game, you got to do that, and I take some risks, and honestly, I'd rather do that instead of waiting and flipping picks last second. I go with whatever I say on this day. So the Saints here, I'm going to take, even with uncertainty with Derek Carr. Kamara comes back this week. And I think that overall, with Olave, Michael Thomas is getting back. Rashid Shaheed is an absolute stud. That guy might be one of the most underrated players in the league right now. I think that their offense still can be enough with Jameis, especially I think Jameis would have some motivation here compared to last week going against a former team, more time to prepare. I'll take the Saints, but this one, with Baker at QB, always makes it sneaky. Commanders have been sneaky at times, but the Eagles are just, on paper, maybe the best roster in the league. I mean, they don't slow down ever. They're up there with the Niners right now, playing really well. Cowboys were up there before. We'll get to them. And the Dolphins. I mean, it's probably the Dolphins, Eagles, and 49ers that are really sticking out right now. And the Eagles I just have to go with here. It's the safe choice. I feel like when you're trying to get the most picks right, this is one where you just have to take it. If I lose that is what it is, but I feel like there's less risk here if you go with the dominant team. I like what Sam Howell, though, has as a ceiling. Obviously, last week against Buffalo, real tough, but maybe they can bounce back a little bit here. I think it's a division game. They'll keep it close, but I'll go with the Eagles in this one. Vikings, Panthers. Two teams looking for that win, and the Vikings just lost it last week against the Chargers in a fashion only the Vikings and Chargers could do. And at the same time, you still see the flashes that if you can just get it enough and take care of the football and not have those crazy interceptions go either way on both sides of the ball, whether it's your guy trying to catch it and then the other, basically both times it was Vikings defender or TJ Hawkinson trying to catch it and it bobbles up. If you can avoid those, and I know we say this every week, but if the Vikings can just clean up the football a little bit, they're going to be a good football team, and I'm not going to write them off quite yet. The Panthers, I respect them for not putting in Bryce Young last week, as their line is pretty broken. Now, Andy Dalton, though, kept that game close for sure for a while. That was interesting to see. I just think offensively, I think the Panthers look like a team that went to Madden 18, or maybe let's jump forward, maybe Madden 19 or 20. And just went out and picked some random 80 overall type of players, from that time period, and they roll them out there. It's a veteran group that doesn't have upside, but they have enough consistency that they can at least keep it close always. I'm going to take the upside here in this matchup that the Vikings get the win, but the Panthers, especially if it is Andy Dalton, I think would keep it closer than Bryce Young. Even though I still loved Bryce Young, still think he is a huge potential. I respect them valuing the health of the player in the future over, because this year is not the year for them. So at this point, I thought they were maybe going to be a sneaky like 6 or 7 win team. Maybe I was saying 7 or 8, but at this point you're looking more at maybe 5 or 6. So I'm going to go with the Vikings in that matchup. Steelers, Texans. Oh, this Texans team is getting me so close to thinking about maybe picking them a little more often. I just think that they're a little, I don't know. Well, they've kind of kept it close in every ball game, but it's just like on paper, I don't know if I have them quite in my mind yet as like a playoff contender type of team to really pick them over some other teams. But man, I got to give them credit. They're doing really, really well. I've talked about it for weeks that their core is great with Stroud and Anderson, but they're looking good right now. I mean, this is impressive. You got Will Anderson blocking field goals, Stroud looking like an absolute stud out there. This is great for the Texans overall. They are looking solid, so I got to give them credit. I just have to go with the safe option here, which is the Steelers. This offense is still super sluggish, and every week it's like if they're playing a team that I have any playoff hopes for, I might start picking against the Steelers. But their defense, man, their defense shows up all the time. TJ Watt and the company is always delivering. So I got to go with the Steelers here, even though the Texans have looked great overall for what I thought they'd be. So credit to them, but I have to go with the Steelers just to be safe here. Chargers, Raiders. It's just the Raiders I can't pick right now. I thought about it last week, but luckily I did stick with the Steelers. And the Chargers, finally get some momentum after a win. Still making some questionable decisions. Both of these teams made some questionable decisions last week, whether it was the 4th down call or the field goal call. So overall, it's a question mark, but I'm going to go with the Chargers here. I just think that they have a higher ceiling, really have questioned the Raiders at times, especially on offense. I don't know if eventually they're going to swap off of Garoppolo or not. He gives them the best chance to win right now, but if they get a couple more losses, you might start seeing an Aiden O'Connell in there. So I got to go with the Chargers for now in that one. Cowboys, Patriots, this one might be, I'm going to say, my toughest pick of the week. What happened last week is during the Monday night, I started picking all the games. I had about 3 that I swapped, and all 3 of them went wrong. This is one I almost swapped, and I don't think I can because it went wrong last week. The Cowboys, I think, will bounce back a little bit. I think that Micah Parsons is going to, put up a better performance than last week. Really going to get down there and maybe sack the quarterback. But it's because of the Patriots offense, which has been a pleasant surprise to me. They've been able to deliver enough, but it's like the Steelers where it's enough to maybe get some wins, but so far I'm not blown away by their offense. But then again, it's been consistent enough that I'm impressed with what they're doing. This is one of those games where I could easily see the Patriots pulling this off. I mean, it really feels like that. But I think that defensively, the Cowboys against, not necessarily, I'm not going to criticize and doubt Mac Jones or the receivers here, but I think against the offensive line of the Patriots is where they might have some problems. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys. Huge spread, but honestly, if I was going to mention it in this, if I did make bets on covering that type of thing, I think I would lean towards the Patriots +7 here, because I think the odds that they cover that or even win the game outright are pretty high. I think this will be a close game. But I only pick straight up, and so for that reason, I'm going to go with the Cowboys. Similar reasons. Cardinals, way to get that win last week. Almost nobody expected that. Credit to you. Josh Dobbs finally gets his win. I've talked about it before a little bit, but Josh Dobbs has been the king of playing decent and consistent enough like a backup in a game where if you could just get everybody else to deliver, you're going to get a win because he's consistent enough. And they finally get a win last week. I felt happy for him because he's been in so many tough games, put in so many tough situations where he just gets thrust into the lineup and he has to go. I have to go with the 49ers here. It's just a safe choice. They're still one of maybe the best team in football right now. I have to do it. Such a big group. But the Cardinals always keep games close, and credit to what they're doing so far. But Brock Purdy in that offense and this defense with Nick Bosa and Fred Warner looking great for the Niners. So I have to go with them. Same reason with the Chiefs. I'm officially out. I took the Jets in an upset last week, and I flipped that pick, when making the graphics, and I regret that. It just is not. That was officially kind of the throw in the towel game for me. I still had some hope a little bit in Zach Wilson. I still think there could be. But right now, I have not seen the improvement, and it's one of those things where it's Steelers light is what the Jets are. They're a team with a great defense who, even last Sunday against the Patriots, put the offense back on the field countless times to have a chance to win, and they just didn't do it. I just can't trust that offense right now for the Jets. So I have to clearly go with the Chiefs. Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes and all of them lit up the scoreboard last week against the Bears. They got a big win. So good for them. Once again, it's just more I can't trust the Jets' offense right now. Their defense delivers, but I can't put enough faith in the Jets' offense to really pick them right now against many teams, probably. And lastly, Seahawks, Giants. I got to say I'm shocked Seahawks are underdogs, so I'm going to take them there. Giants, to me, just don't quite look like it, especially with unknown health to Saquon Barkley. I put him in the thumbnail because he might play. And he is probably the best player they have, but, questionable health there. But either way, I did think the Giants would kind of slip a little bit, and I'm seeing that. I just think offensively are really struggling right now, and defensively they've not been super strong either. But the Seahawks, have been up and down again, but I think that Geno Smith and the company there on offense is doing enough. And it sounds like they're going to get Jamal Adams back this week too, which might give them an upgrade there. So I'm going to go with the Seahawks. I just love what they have offensively with their receivers and going, and even Kenneth Walker's running the ball real well, and Charbonnet hitting stiff arms too. I got to go with the Seahawks there. So those are my picks for this week in the NFL slate. We'll see how it turns out, and hopefully, end up with that good record at the end of the week. So all the teams on this side are who I think will win the games this week. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.